We're back for another episode of Scaling Sustainability Impact. In our last episode, we left off with Magnus Edholm and Eryn Devola talking about what some of our customers are figuring out when it comes to building a sustainable digital enterprise. And I want to start this discussion with a question for you, Eryn. Is sustainability just for greenfield projects, or is there an attainable benefit for existing facilities as well?
People have been building factories and understanding how do we want to retrofit those and move those forward for quite some time. I think it's also interesting to think about, we often think about greenfield factories and greenfield and brownfield factories. We less often think about greenfield and brownfield designs. So taking an existing design and adding some new capability to it. And I think that's another place where, again, having it's a more complex problem. Therefore, having some real insight to look at the data that's available to you. Because the good news about having brownfield is you know what your actual reality is and you know what you're improving from. And so taking that as an advantage rather than just an obstacle, I think can also help quite a bit.
So we've talked a lot about data and its value in the digital enterprise a little bit here in the abstract, but can we take some time to cover its role in more detail? How do we collect the terabytes of data a factory is going to output and present that in a usable form for users?
Sure. What you say is completely correct. The production site are producing huge amounts of data, and so does actually the product when it's actually in use, very often at least. And collecting data is something I guess more or less anyone can do. Big data. The trick is to turn this big data into smart data. And in all of this, I would say that the industrial grade AI is playing an important role. I'm saying industrial grade AI because it's kind of a bit different than, let's say, the AI that you and I, Nick, are using as private persons. And I mean it because we are using our own data in an industrial grade AI. That's a part of our intellectual property. We want to protect it. So we need that data. So being able to go in there and sort things out, for example, energy management, I just spoke about it, but it's a very tangible example that you need to know what parameters and what equipment are actually creating a demand of energy, and you need to pinpoint that. And in all of this, AI can be of support. It can run on an edge device, and it can talk to the machine. I'm sure you heard about the industrial co-pilot, etc. So it's getting more and more important. So data is gold. It's worth a lot for any company to optimize everything they're doing. And also in all of this, the IT-OT convergence, and coming back to that because it is so important to get this, I mean, it's a word you use all the time, but transparency. But transparency is in fact really important. But good transparency enables good decision making, and good decision making makes you, as a company, more sustainable. And I guess that is what it comes down to be a sustainable digital enterprise. So data, yes, collect it, understand it, and use it to continuously optimize all the product and also the processes.
Yeah, and we've talked about transparency between different partners in the ecosystem. What role are they going to play in creating a sustainable digital enterprise with one supplier has some amount of carbon emissions or water use problems? How does that get transferred, and how do they work together?
You know, at Siemens, because of the breadth and the depth of our portfolio, we have a unique opportunity to not just design products, but to help provide solutions to our suppliers to become more energy efficient in what they're doing. So this really helps us drive deeper into clear partnerships with our suppliers. So they might be providing us with a control board, but at the same time, we're providing them with an energy management solution. And so this is a way that we're able to help ourselves get better by working with these key suppliers, by working with other partners to look at how do we solve problems much more collectively, and taking the knowledge and intelligence we have over not just one enterprise, over multiple enterprises, and pulling them together, or looking over the entire supply chain and saying, hey, as I look at the supply chain for this particular part or this particular product, the most impactful thing we could do is attack one spot in there that maybe has the biggest energy use or the most pollutants in it, and attack that together rather than locally optimizing everybody doing one thing in their own operation. We can look over the entire length of it for the most critical problem and solve it together. And this is what we mean about partnering being so important. And, I went to something at Climate Week last year. It was called Radical Collaboration. And I really feel that that's what we need. We need to think about partnerships and think about sharing in a completely new and different and much deeper and broader way than we have in the past.
Yeah, and if I can step in there, Eryn, I completely to 100% agree with what you're talking about. And also in the same way of tracking data in the supply chain, I think we mentioned trusted traceability a few times, which enables you to know, I don't know, an example, you have an ice cream, Nick. You like the ice cream. You want to know where this ice cream comes from. And you can go back in the chain. You can more or less pinpoint this particular cow on a field in Austria producing the milk, etc. And that thinking is something you can apply to other areas also. If you take batteries, as I said, there's just 5% of all the batteries being recycled as we speak. I think in a year or two, batteries over 2 kilowatt hours, I'm not completely 100% on the number here, but those rollers that you have in every city with a bit of pride, those green ones, so you can just scan it and you can go for a spin. That battery size and upwards going to have a battery passport, and the battery passport will be able to drive recycling. Instead of throwing those batteries away, every passport will come in, be scanned, and you will know who produced it, what's in it, how much kilowatt does it actually cover, and so on and so forth. And that is also something that is doable by using data and working with those ecosystems, be it Sea Green, be it the battery passports, be it trusted traceability. It's all about sharing and driving transparency.
So at least in the automotive field, we've talked a little bit about, there is definitely a burden for some of these companies that comes with having to do traceability for something like the battery passport. But there's also the benefit of increased visibility into the usage of the product. Is that going to be playing in a lot of other industries as well, like how this product is being used and maybe how it could in the future be designed for its second life or third life or from there?
This is one of the places where regulation is playing a fairly key role. So battery passport legislation comes to the EU in 2027, which requires 103, I believe, different data pieces to be collected across the life of a battery, a lot of those pieces of data in the use phase. And so now that we have all this data coming for batteries, how do we use this data? And that, I think, is a big key here as we look forward, is that it's one thing to collect data, it's another thing to have the models to turn that data into better decisions. And so we see that coming first for battery, but there's also a proposal that type of legislation is coming, and it's not yet defined, but for all electronics, and that right now is scheduled for 2030. So I think companies are going to need to take have a reaction to that, to collect much more data, and that data will likely be extending into the use phase. And so now the big challenge is, now that I have the data, how do I best use that? How do I turn that into a way to eliminate waste, a way to leverage competitive advantage, a way to make a better product and a more useful product during its lifetime? So I think that that's a huge opportunity, or a burden, however you want to look at it, coming, but it's coming nonetheless. And then you can leverage that moving forward. So I think that that's a big key. And Magnus mentioned that we have some technology that does pieces of that with trusted traceability, with Sea Green, and then also with the battery passport that we're currently launching with the automotive industry. And so I would say for other industries, it's important to watch how that develops, because it's going to impact you at some point in the future. So you can kind of maybe learn from what's going on around you. And again, that sort of ecosystem view.
So with regulations changing every so often, customer expectations changing, it's kind of forcing our customers to be more agile in their solutions to how they make products, make processes, deliver what their business is for. And that's a lot like the natural world, doing things in response to potential harms. But are there other longer term trends determining how new standard approaches to manufacturing develop? Are we seeing the sustainable digital enterprise model evolving in the next few years? I'm curious what you think is going to happen to the status quo.
I think that change and transformation is essential for everyone out there, and I mean it has been for thousands of years. I mean, if we go back in time to the Stone Age, Nick, the Stone Age didn't end because they ran out of stones. The Stone Age ended because someone came up with a better way of solving problems. And I think that's what we need to think. I'm not saying we go back to Stone Age, but I think we're in a much better position now to take advantage of the resources we have, and change and transformation is essential for all of us. I think transformation, change, it drives business forward, and I think that's in the interest for all of us. And I tell you, you just need to look around and you see the amazing solutions that are out there. Simulation. We haven't spoken about simulation, but simulation is key for so many things, both for the product side and production side, and also a very important player when it comes to making product and production more sustainable in all this. Eryn, any thoughts on that from your side?
Yeah, I think the most consistent thing we'll know is that everything's going to change, and I think the bigger thing is that speed of change is coming faster. And so I think being able to anticipate how a product produced today might be used 5, 10, 15 years from now is really the big challenge. And so knowing that change is happening faster, knowing transformation is never ending, how do I make the best investments with the limited resources we have to pull from and make those products future proof for as long as possible? And I think that's the big challenge and the big opportunity kind of facing all companies today.
Awesome. And to close out, how would each of you recommend our customers go about their digital transformation for sustainability?
If I start, and you can do the last word, Eryn, I would say, first of all, look around, get in contact with us. We've spoken about those digital enterprise experience centers that we have around the globe, essentially. We spoke about Erlangen in my example. I would say take time, make an appointment, visit our colleagues, talk to them, ask them those tricky questions and see how they've tackled them. Because I think it comes down to actually talking to each other, evolving, developing ecosystems, exchanging information across industries, process industry, discrete industries. I think we need to learn from each other, because we said it before that no single company will be able to do this alone. And I don't think any country on its own will be able to do it. We need to work on the sustainability challenge together. And I believe that the technology and the industry is an incredibly important player in all of this.
Yeah, I think my biggest recommendation to customers right now would be to be curious, to learn more, to look and see what the best practices around you are, because there's a lot to be learned, and then take some kind of action forward. I think it's always a little bit easy then to get a little overwhelmed by all the great things. Pick something, get started, because digital transformation is not going away.
Awesome. Thank you both for taking the time, and thanks to the audience for tuning in to another episode of Scaling Sustainability Impact. We have some links for you in the description to explore our Siemens Accelerator website, as well as some wider materials on sustainability solutions here at Siemens. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. And until then, maybe check out our other conversations with experts out of Siemens Digital Industries software on the design side of sustainability.